evening, everyone! Today, I will be sharing the third video in my Otakon review and debriefing series. By the time you are watching this, I will have done 2 videos on this topic already, so I implore you to watch those 2 first since I will be starting off right where I left off in the second video. Starting out bright and early, I woke up at 9 a.m. The con opened at 10 and I wanted to be there right at opening. I am so glad that I did. My first cosplay was Elfalin from Kirby and the Forgotten Land, or KATFL for short. I got dressed, grabbed my bags, and headed to the con. I arrived at 10 a.m. I pretty much got there on time. I already had my badge, but since I went right at opening, the line was a little hectic. It was much shorter though, so I was not waiting forever. However, the line for those that did not have badges was as bad as it was on Friday, maybe even worse. I mean, I guess it was Saturday of the con, so what else did I expect? Good thing I did not need to wait in that again, but I did feel badly for those that did, because this shows that Otakon did not remedy the issue from Friday. It was the same unorganized line and the same staff with megaphones that were not doing the job. Otakon really needs to get their act together with these lines. Lines that wrap around the building are unacceptable. Anyways, I was in within 30 minutes. The first thing I did was head for the dealer's room. This was around 10:30 or 11, kind of between that time frame. It was much more crowded, worse than it was on Friday. As you know, I traveled all the way down to this con from NYC. That was a whole ordeal and took a lot of planning. I own a cat named Sarge. When I go on vacation, I need to find someone to watch Sarge. I live in an apartment building, so my neighbors in the apartment across the way do the honors. They have a little girl who really likes Disney. Her favorite Disney princess is Elsa. She's super cute and even has a mini closet full of princess costumes. Seriously, you'd melt if you saw it. To thank them for watching Sarge, I try to get her a gift from wherever I go. This time, since I was going to a convention, I thought, she likes Elsa. It shouldn't be that hard to find an Elsa plushie at one of the vendors, right? Well, about that, I ran all over that dealer's room trying to find an Elsa plushie or pillow for her. I went to loads of booths. Nothing. There was one that had an Elsa Q Posket figure, but those are more collector's items than anything. A 4-year-old wouldn't appreciate it as much. All the merch was anime, manga, and video games, which makes sense since otaku are the target audience. At least I was able to buy a few things for myself. After running around the place, I was hungry. There were food carts in the room. I am picky, so I did not expect to find anything at these carts. I stumbled across a sub or sandwich cart. The subs were DC style, so a little different than what I am used to. Once again, the food was expensive! $15 for a sub, plus another $4.50 for a bottle of soda. For reference, I can get a Subway back home for $10 with a drink and chips. What a ripoff. But it is a con. You're paying for the convenience of not needing to go outside and find a place. I finished my lunch around 1 p.m. I then headed for the artist alley. I need a break from the vendors, especially after all that running around trying to find an Elsa plushie. In the artist alley, there was this one booth that was selling fan-made Kirby and the Forgotten Land merch. This put a shock to my system. It's not often one finds KTFL merch, much less fan-made stuff. I was ecstatic, so I kinda bought their entire stock. Just a little bit, just slightly. It was mainly a collection of pins, stickers, and keychains. They did have a blanket, but they sold out of that on Friday. Darn it, if only I had gone to the artist alley sooner on Friday. Well, I guess there is always their Etsy site. I came back with a bunch of new pins and keychains for my Ida bags. Considering my cosplays on Saturday, this was very fitting. As I am writing this, I still have not mounted most of the stuff I got from this booth. I only did a few on one of my newer bags. I have not figured out how to mount the keychains to the bag either. The original idea was to go back to the dealer's room after, but the line was insane. I did not realize how bad it was until I got to the top of the escalator. Just a sea of people! And it was overcrowded, so nothing was moving. A huge line ended up forming just to get into the dealer's room. It was so bad, I just had to put it on my social media stories. There was even a sea of people coming down the central escalators. I can't imagine how bad that line became. There is no way I was getting back in there. Once again, Otakon! Unacceptable! Not only was the line a dead stop, but it was also a fire hazard. Imagine if the building caught fire and everyone was stuck in the basement. There were plenty of doors and windows everywhere, but all those people would be running for the doors and stepping on or tripping over others. The dealers and artists would have also been effectively trapped. Best case scenario, the occupants would have ended up in the hospital with different degree burns. Worst case scenario, the occupants would not have survived. We always say, oh, that won't happen to us, or it can't happen to us. I mean, of course we do. Who wants to think about that stuff? But as planners of such a large-scale event, you need to take these things into consideration. Think about it. You have people with props, flowy dresses, floor-length gowns, big skirts, ribbons hanging off their clothes, wings, tails, super long wigs, the list goes on and on and on. On top of that, you have highly flammable products such as plushies and paper. Add all these to an already overcrowded indoor venue, it is a disaster waiting to happen. Around 2 p.m., I headed back up to the main con center. I met up with a few of my friends and decided to sit and rest a while with them. I had 5-inch platform heels on, so my feet were killing me. One of my friends was hosting a small meetup, so I joined. We hung out and took some photos. Most were headed for a one-piece shoot right after, one went back to her room to rest for the rave, and the other went on a date. This is when everything dawned on me. My feelings of disappointment, hopelessness, frustration, and anger all came crashing down at once. I realized we paid all this money and spent all this time and energy on an experience that I could have gotten back in NYC. I even said, might as well be Anime NYC at the Javits Center. The people I met and hung with were all people I knew from NYC. Even the photographer that I worked with was one I knew from NYC. I mean, I like working with this photographer, and I like running into familiar faces at cons, but I did not need to go all the way to DC for it. We see each other almost every weekend back home. Why did we spend all this time, energy, and money on something that I could have gotten back home? All this standing ovations and rave reviews. I thought this would be different. I thought this would be better than what I get at home. You know what? I expected it. If all my peers and friends were willing to go through this ordeal just for a con in DC, it must be the best of the best, right? No way they would just throw their money down the drain like that, right? Nope. Wrong. Dead wrong. But I still had the entire afternoon, evening, and Sunday of this con left. Might as well try to make the best of it. Spoiler alert, it does not get any better. Around 5 p.m., I headed to the Marriott Marquis to get some photos done. He had already taken photos of Elfalin in his studio back in May. We did not want to be redundant. We grabbed a few shots, and I headed back to my room to change. The session only lasted about 30 minutes, so I was back in my room by 5:30. I rested in my room for an hour. I needed a break from being in that overcrowded con center, as well as to rest my legs from walking around in platform boots all day. The dealer's room closed at 6 p.m., which is quite early for a Saturday. Too early, actually, in my opinion. This is my third criticism of Otakon. Why'd you close the dealer's room so early? That is practically unheard of at the cons here in NYC. Here, the dealer's room and artist alley stay open until 10 p.m., sometimes even 11. Especially considering you still had that super long line wrapped around the building from earlier. It makes no sense to close it so early. On top of that, the long stop-and-go line to get into the room. There is no reason to close an integral part of a convention this early on a Saturday. Sunday, I can understand. Friday, questionable, but I can sort of see it. Not on a Saturday, though. Saturdays are arguably the most important and busiest days of a convention. There is no reason to close a dealer's room this early. At 6:30 p.m., I changed to Defecto Forgo, which was my evening and night cosplay. Another character from Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I guess I just decided to make this KTFL day. I wanted to do this one for the rave since it just made sense. I also like the duality between this and Elfalin earlier in the day. Playing off the story from the game, I find it to be really on point with these characters. At 7 p.m., I headed back to the Marquee for more photos. Same photographer. He deserves a medal. He handled about 95% of my photos this weekend. Thing is, he didn't even come to DC for the con. He came to sightsee and get a break from the city. So I appreciate him taking time out of his vacation to help me with my photos. We use the entire lobby of the Marquee for these photos. There is this huge stairway that was popular for photos. The number of times we had to move to the side when we were shooting on the stairs. It was a stairway after all, but it was just funny. Reminded me of dodging traffic during outdoor photo shoots back home. I finished the photos around 8 p.m. I met back up with some friends for dinner. I wanted to eat dinner before the rave, since I knew that everything would be closed when it ended. We decided on food court pizza this time. Once again, the line was super long. We waited for 30 minutes because they had to put more pizza in the oven. They already sold the ones they had very quickly. The lines for the other places were also long, but not as long as this one. And we got there early. We finally got up and I put in my order. To make up for the line, they comped our drinks, which was good. I mean, we saved $5. We just socialized over dinner. Since the con was coming to an end, we pretty much went over our thoughts about it. My friends liked the con and said they'd be returning. I, however, will not. You'll see why in just a minute. That took 2 hours. At 11 p.m., we headed over to the rave. One of my friends was tired, so she went back to her room to rest and pack up. The other joined me and will soon become a witness to what was probably my worst con experience to date. Before I continue, I'm going to take a minute to show you everything that I brought into this rave because it will be important later. It's important to the story, trust me. First, I had this bag, exactly this bag. It is a mood shopping bag, definitely a bag. No contest there. I had a few things in it, but to me, this was the only bag I brought. I also had this thing. It's like a pouch. It's a crossbody, so I was wearing it across my chest because, well, it's small and it's easy and it's technically not a bag. I also had a plushie with me. It went with my cosplay. Now that we're on the same page here, I'm going to take it back over to the story. I headed over to the rave with my friend. Otakon had a no bag rule, exemptions made for medical bags and small purses and clutches. Since I had a large shopping bag with me, that meant I had to check it. Yay! Another line! We waited 30 minutes in the bag check line. Are you seeing a pattern here? Otakon does not know how to handle lines. This is like the 5th time I've run into a crazy long line, but we know that at this point. It's almost as if it's expected to wait in a terrible line like this. 30 minutes later, we finally arrive at the bag check. My friend drank a lot of soda, so she had to go to the bathroom. She only had a small clutch, so she did not need to check anything. This will be important later. I go up to the bag check staff. There are 3 of them. 2 men and 1 woman. I hand them my shopping bag and proceed to walk away. This is what happens next. Before I could walk away, one of the staff members says, "Wait a minute, come back here." So I go back and I'm like, "What's the problem?" The staff are like, "You need to check your bag." So I'm pointing at the shopping bag that I just checked and I tell them, "This is my bag, you already checked it." They're like, "No, you need to check your other bag." At this point, I'm really confused. Like, I didn't bring another bag. At least what I had, I didn't consider a bag. So I asked them, I'm like, "What other bag? I only brought the shopping bag." They're like, "No, the bag you're wearing on your shoulder. You need to check that one too." I take off my mini purse or pouch thing. It's really more of a pouch. It's not even a purse. Like, you can't even call it a purse. So I take it off and I show them, I'm like, "This one? This is considered a bag." And they're like, "Yeah, by our standards, it is." And I'm just sitting there floored. I'm like, "But it's not a bag though. It's a small pouch." And they're like, "But it's a bag by our standards." And again, I'm just like, "But it isn't though." And I tell them that my friend had a clutch that was the same size and that they let her in with no hassle. The staff are like, "Oh, well, we shouldn't have let her in, but you let her in, so why are you hassling me?" They're like, "Because it's a bag by our standards." And I tell them again, I'm like, "But it's not a bag though?" Once again, I tell them that I've seen other participants bring in pouches and clutches the same size, some even bigger than what I had, and that they never gave them a hard time. So I ask them what the difference is, like, why are they singling me out? And they're like, "Because it's a bag. We consider it a bag." And I'm just like, "But it's not a bag." So I get stuck in this fruitless back and forth with these incompetent bag check staff. It eventually delves into a shouting match between us. The staff starts screaming at me. They're like, "What your friend was let in with is none of our business. By our standards, you have a bag. You're holding up the line, so either check it or leave." Of course, the pouch that I had my wallet and my phone in it. and those are very valuable items. I didn't want to check those, especially with these incompetent staff. Like, I didn't trust them with my valuable stuff. So I pull out my wallet and my phone. These are the only things I had in this pouch, and I could barely fit those. So I scream back at them, and I'm like, so what about these? What if they get stolen or lost? Are you going to pay to replace them? I didn't think so. At this point, we're just shouting at each other. They won't get stolen, it's just us watching the bags. But what if? What will you do if they get stolen? They just aren't listening to me. Eventually, they say, ma'am, you're holding up the line, you have a bag, you either check it or you leave. At that point, I'm just done, you know? They're not listening to me. I tried to bring backup. I tried asking them why my pouch was considered a bag, and they wouldn't tell me the reason. At this point, I was pissed because I was convinced that they were just singling me out for no reason. So I grabbed my shopping bag, and I'm just like, fine. You know, I came all the way from NYC. This is my first Otakon and certainly my last. I paid good money to be here and you treat me like this? I'm going to report you and put in a complaint. They respond with, yeah, that's not our problem. Like, I don't think I've ever encountered such incompetent staff at a con. Like, I've heard of security guards and other con staff being rude, but I've never encountered something like this or heard anything of this caliber. It was just like shocking. More than shocking, I was just floored. I just couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable how unorganized and incompetent these staff were, how unorganized this con was. After that, I walk away. By this point, my friend had returned from the bathroom and witnessed the entire ordeal go down. I went to the floor lady and asked to put in a complaint. She asked what the problem was. I explained everything that just went down, and because she was incompetent, she sided with the bag check staff. I tried explaining to her, again, why my pouch was not a bag, but just like the bag check staff, she wouldn't listen. So she called in the manager. The manager comes in and calmly starts talking to me. By this time, I'm standing there with my friend. This manager asks me to be more specific about the incident. I did. I explained everything that just went down. He actually listened to me. Wow. Finally, a staff member that actually listens to their attendees. I was surprised at that. After having dealt with those bag check staff and the floor lady, I was surprised that this manager was even a little bit better. That's how bad this incident was, when I'm surprised when a staff member does the bare minimum. So, after I explain, he starts to explain to me why my pouch was considered a bag. The reason was because it had a strap. Yep, that was the reason. Very simple reason. In addition, he said that if I remove this strap, then I could bring it in. So simple! Such a simple solution. That friend who was there, she also helped because she compared the pouch that I had to her clutch and asked the manager to explain the difference between the two, to which he couldn't because there wasn't one. Mind you, that was not specified anywhere on Otakon's website or in their program booklet. Both forms of media just mention the no bags rule. As you can see, I have pulled up the official Otakon website. This is the page about the dance, or the rave, as it is colloquially known. The page gives general information and house rules. If you scroll down, you will see their bag policy. I am circling it now. The reason I bring this up is because nowhere does it specify what a bag is. Take with this what you will, but apparently that's arbitrary. I guess people have different opinions on what is a bag and what isn't. I don't know. It's just stupid. Like, okay, I understand that shopping bags, backpacks, large totes, large purses, suitcases, stuff like that are bags, okay? No argument there, no contest. But a small pouch like mine, that was the same size as my friend's clutch, that's not a bag. At least I don't consider that a bag because it isn't. Even my friends agree with me. All my friends say that they wouldn't have considered my pouch a bag either, and they're all floored whenever I tell them the story. Aside from, like, okay, they didn't specify in any of their official media what was considered a bag, the other issue here was that those staff were rude to me. On top of initiating a shouting match with a customer, they also misgendered me. I mean, okay, I get it, like, the outfit I wore, all of them misgendered me, manager included. Absolutely unacceptable, but that was the least of my worries. I tried reporting the staff to the manager, and he tried making excuses. Oh, they've been working for 3 hours straight without breaks, cut them some slack. I was like, that's not my problem. None of my business. I'm not the one that deals in hiring. Like, I have no say in that. I am a customer, and they're in customer service. They need to learn how to handle customers better. I said it exactly like that to the manager. It should not have ended in a shouting match between me and the staff. That's unacceptable. If I went to Macy's and the staff started shouting at me, they would have been fired on the spot. That's because it's unacceptable. You don't do that. I don't care how the customer is acting. I mean, unless they're really acting unruly for no reason or being violent. Okay, that's a different story. When a customer is voicing their dissatisfaction or voicing their frustration, you do not initiate a shouting match with them. It should never have gone to that. The other thing I said to that manager was that if a bag was specified in official Otakon media, the entire incident would not have happened. The staff did not even explain that to me, even though I asked why multiple times. Like, I was very clearly confused as to why they kept saying my pouch was a bag. And I kept saying, but it isn't. And, like, they just kept saying, but yes, it is. They didn't tell me why. If they had just explained that it was because I had a strap on it, then I would have gladly complied and I would have taken it off. But no, they didn't because they were incompetent. It's very clear that these staff members were incompetent. Otakon, you really need to train your staff better. Also, if you are going to make and enforce these types of rules, you need to be specific. Specify on the website and in the program book so that there is no confusion. Such a simple solution, but it involved a lot of pain and suffering to get there because of incompetent staff, because of disorganization. I mean, that's the bottom line. This incident was so bad that I had to file a complaint with the control panel. I regret not getting this interaction on recording, but I implore you to believe me. As I said, my friend with the clutch was there the entire time. She even helped me get my pouch into the event, so she can vouch for me if it ever comes to that. Another important thing to note is that they claimed this no bag rule was in place to prevent attendees from smuggling drugs into the rave. But if someone was adamant about bringing in drugs, they're going to find a way. If they can't use a bag, they'll hide it in their shoes, their jacket, hat, whatever, what have you. Also, I had a plushie with me. They let that in with no issue. If someone who was adamant about bringing in contraband had a plushie or other small prop with them, they would have just used that. That argument falls apart when you look at the full picture. They did not do pat downs or metal detectors or magnetometers or anything like that. If you really want to prevent people from bringing in contraband, which I understand, then go the whole 9 yards. People are not stupid. They were not born yesterday. If there is a will, there is a way. That is why the TSA is so strict at airport security. They know people will get creative and find a way. They thought of it, but they just didn't think of the whole picture. This is the second time that they didn't think of the whole picture. Even earlier with the line in the basement, they take the obvious, in this case, oh, no bags, no problem, and they just run with it. If you're going to put on a large-scale event, you need to think deeper. You can't just go with the obvious and say, okay, that's it. Unfortunately, it's just not how it works. Anyways, we finally got in around 12:30 a.m. Yes, this ordeal took an entire hour to solve. 1 whole hour! It should have been solved within 15 minutes. This rave only went until 1:30 a.m., so we did not get to experience much of it at all, which was fine since none of us really danced. We danced a little bit and ended up sitting for the rest of it. The music was nice at least. We took some photos on our way out and went back to our rooms. We needed to rest and pack for the final day. Even before the rave, I was already having a terrible con experience, and this just made it worse. It did not have to end like this. Had the organization been better, this incident would not have happened. If the staff were competent, this would not have happened. If Otakon had just been more specific on their website, this would not have happened. If something like this happened at one of the NYC cons, the venue would have been burnt to the ground. In other words, this wouldn't fly. We just don't accept this kind of treatment in NYC. Case in point, Anime NYC 2021. On Friday, Anime NYC suffered the same issue with lines. I was stuck out in the cold for 2 hours, and that was only because I had class in the morning. Many were stuck in the freezing cold for 4 hours or more. ANYC suffered a well-deserved, terrible social media fallout, so they made changes to the line setup for Saturday and Sunday. They also refunded those who only had Friday tickets and could not experience the full con. My point stands. We don't accept this kind of treatment in NYC. It's a shame that it seems a large portion of Otakon's demographic would. That incident at the rave should never have happened. Full stop. I did not travel all the way down from NYC just to be treated like garbage.